Hi everyone, welcome to Pre-Calculus Chapter 2, Lesson 1, What is a Function? In this lesson, we'll look at the basic definition of a function, how to tell domain and range, how to evaluate things in function notation, and different ways of writing a function. So the first thing I have for you are some terms. The first term is function. A function is a rule that assigns each element in set A exactly to one element in set B. Basically what that means, set A is the input values, set B is the output value, and every input has only one possible output. Now, set A is also known as the domain, the independent variable, or the X value of your function. Those are the inputs. And set B is also known as the range, the dependent variable, and the Y value. Those are the outputs. It's what you can get out of it. Now, there are four different ways that we do use to define a function. The first way is verbally. We use a verbal description of what's going on. You can say, the amount is doubled, something like that, or it's increased by 10. So you can use a verbal description. Algebraically, this is the one we're most familiar with. You would see f of x equals 2x, something like that, where you have something that is giving you a mathematical description. Visually, this is where we're graphing them. So you can use graphs to describe it. And numerically, this is a table of values. These are all very good ways to define a function. They all have their purposes. But first, let's look at an example of taking a function and evaluating it, finding its domain and range. Example 1 says a function f is defined by the formula f of x equals x squared plus 4. In part A, they ask us to express in words how f acts on the input x to produce the output f of x. This is literally, you would write out exactly how you would read this. For the x, you can say that this is the input. You could also say that it is a variable, but let me show you what I had for that answer. You could simply say square the input and then add 4, square and then add 4. It's really just giving the operations of the function in the order that you would complete them. Next, we are asked to evaluate. This means that you take this number and you put it in here and you find the value of it. And the parentheses are implied, so if you have this in parentheses, you would square the -2. The parentheses are implied, the whole thing is being squared. So when we calculate that, we would get 3 different answers, one for each of these, and I'll show you what they are. Okay, I got 3 squared is 9, plus 4 is 13. -2 squared is +4, and then plus 4 is 8. And the square root of 5 squared is 5, and plus 4 is 9. Now, last but not least, they want us to find the domain and range of this function. The domain, you simply ask yourself, is there any value I'm not allowed to put in for x? Is there any value, any type of number that I'm not allowed to square and then add 4 to? And really, in most cases, the domain is going to be all real numbers, which is what our domain is in this case. Now, for the range, you have to look at the outputs. In this case, I like to look at the graph, which is a quadratic function opening upward. So it opens like a parabola in this general shape. And it's gone up by 4, which means that the lowest possible value coming out of this is 4. Then all the other values are going to be greater than that. So my range is that the y values are going to be greater than or equal to 4. And this is how I would write the domain and range. You can use simply the real number symbol right here. And over here in the range, I did give it in set builder notation, but you can simply give the inequality, or if you would like, you can give interval notation. All of those would be acceptable. Let's look at more cases where we have to evaluate for values in a function. In example 2, we're given f of x equals 3x squared plus x minus 5, and they want us to evaluate for each value for this function. So I would say pause the video, try each of these, and then hit play, and I'll show you all of the answers. In part A, Negative 2 squared is 4, times 3 is 12, minus 2 is 10, minus 5 is another 5. In part B, when you put in 0, you get 0 plus 0 minus 5 is negative 5. In part C, 4 squared is 16, times 3 is 48, and then plus 4 and minus 5 gets you 47. When you square the 1/2, it becomes 1/4, so you do 3 times 1/4 is 3/4, plus 1/2, and minus 5 is negative 3 3/4. Next, we're going to look at a different type of function that many of you probably have not seen before. They are piecewise defined functions. Example 3 says a cell phone plan costs $39 a month. The plan includes 400 free minutes and charges 20 cents for each additional minute of usage. The monthly charges are a function of the number of minutes used, given by this function. This is what we call a piecewise defined function. And they're asking us for this function to find C of 100, C of 400, and C of 480. Now, a piecewise defined function uses several different parts to describe what your answer is. And the really important part is over here where it says if. If x is between 0 and 400, you're using this top thing, and that will tell you how to find your answer. If x is more than 400, you're using this bottom part to find your answer. So when you look at this, like for C of 100, you would look at the 100, go over here to these inequalities, find which inequality would include 100, which is the top inequality, and then your answer would be whatever the top inequality tells you to do. In this case, I would simply answer 39. If there was like an x next to this, I would do 39 times x, but that's not what's there. You just do whatever it says is there. So pause the video, try and do C of 400 and C of 480, and then hit play to check your answer. For C of 400, what you would do is go to this top inequality. That's where the 400 fits because x could equal 400 there, and you would answer 39. For C of 480, it would be in the bottom inequality, so you do 39 plus 0.2 times 480 minus 400. 480 minus 400 is 80. 80 times 0.2 is 16, and 39 plus 16 is 55. So 480, you would answer 55. There is a little bit more to this lesson. We're going to be talking about how to evaluate for variables and expressions. We're also going to look at some word problems and domain of a function. So make sure you tune in to part 2 of this video series.